It's a new year, so that means there's a new Ronin on the block, and it's a looker. But does its performance stack up to its sibling RS3s? Well, DJI brings us the new RS3 Mini to their line of single-hand gimbals. The build quality of the RS3 Mini feels like it's made of really high quality materials, and it's quite light considering how solid it feels. Coming in at 850 grams, it is the lightest of all three RS3 models. So you can actually use this one-handed gimbal with one hand, although you can add extra handles for more support or greater control. The main part of this gimbal that I'm not in love with is actually the touchscreen on the back. It looks good, but often it requires multiple presses to get the screen to recognize that it was being pressed, which is really frustrating. Although this isn't different from the other two RS3 models, they all pretty much have the same touchscreen, but thankfully most of the features of the RS3 series can be operated through the Ronin app. You can set the parameters of each of the three preset modes, do balance tests, get diagnostic info about the status of your gimbal in real time, and you unlock a bunch of features that without the Ronin app you wouldn't have access to, like force mobile, time-lapse, tracking, and maybe the coolest feature, it unlocks the ability to control this gimbal with a PS4 or Xbox controller, which is awesome. So that's going to make doing all your remote controlling much easier if you don't have access to a set of wheels or you don't want to use the digital controls. From my experience using the RS3 Mini, it is best used with a small camera and lens combination. I tried balancing several different versions of camera lens combinations, and I found that the lighter ones were always easier to get balanced on this gimbal. It is made for cameras like the A7 IV with a Sony 24-70 G Master, which isn't that heavy of a setup, but I would say it's pretty much gonna be maxed out in every different way, like this is currently. All this being said, the RS3 Mini isn't actually all that difficult to balance, even if you're bad at balancing gimbals. The more you use a gimbal, the easier it is to know where its balance points are. Most of the time, I find them to be really fiddly, and this one is no exception. Nevertheless, the ease of balancing and performance can be positively affected by having a light camera and lens. As it turns out, DJI rates the payload of the RS3 Mini at 2 kilograms, which is the same as the RSC. This is surprising to me though, because I've never really had that much issue mounting a slightly larger setup to the RSC. I think this might have something to do with how you adjust forward and back balance. With the other two RS3 and the RSC gimbals, the forward and back balance is adjusted at the quick release plate, whereas with the RS3 Mini, it's adjusted with an additional horizontal arm. From what I can tell, the change in the design comes from the ability to mount the camera vertically without having to buy an extra bracket. Getting the forward and backward balance is tricky to do because of how tight the connection of the bracket is to the balance arm, even when fully unlocked. This proved to be the case with every camera that I tried on this gimbal, and it was by far one of the worst parts of getting this gimbal set up. Once you have the gimbal balanced, it's really easy to use. With the RS3 models, DJI made a big improvement over previous models with their 3rd gen RS stabilization algorithm. It's just so smooth, like butter or ice on a freshly paved sidewalk or something else. I don't know. Analogies aren't my strong suit. Anyways, back to the gimbals. Here's the official list of camera and lens combinations that DJI recommends for use with this gimbal. Clearly, these aren't the only combinations you can use, but these ones are guaranteed to work. Since the RS3 Mini is so small and light, it's going to become a lot of travel videographers' go-to gimbal, as it is way easier to pack in for trips. The tripod foot also comes off, so it makes it really easy to fit into compact areas, and it's been shoved in my camera bag, covered in lenses and other gear, and hasn't had any problems when I pull it out the bag, go to balance it again. As mentioned previously, the RS3 Mini comes with a vertical shooting option as standard, so those shooting for socials will undoubtedly enjoy this feature. You just pop this section off of the mounting bracket, and then you attach it to the main part of this arm. Balancing is the same idea as normal. In fact, I'd actually say it's easier to balance this gimbal vertically than in its landscape mode. Neat! Something that could be a real downside for some people is that the battery grip is not swappable. It does give you a 10-hour runtime, but depending on what moves you're doing and what weather you're operating in, I'm sure that the runtime is going to vary. Another potential downside is that the RS3 Mini only has one USB-C control port, and it's for using the camera control features of this gimbal. You can't use the focus motor, LiDAR, or video transmission. The fact that it only has one USB-C control port means that you're only really able to do camera control, and and that's only going to be on certain sets of cameras. If you are an avid user of the accessories that come with the RS3 and the RS3 Pro, this might not be the gimbal for you because it's not compatible with those accessories. So if you use manual lenses or require more advanced autofocus than what your camera has in it, if you're used to using their LiDAR system, unfortunately those features are not going to be available to you with this gimbal. To prove to you that you can do a lot with a little, here is a short piece that Dale and I shot in about 2 hours outside his house. No lights, no crew, just action, baby! The RS3 Mini, a couple bikes, a monopod, and a few other items is all that we needed to make this proof of concept bike commercial. Dale and I both love biking, so it was a fun experience shooting while trying to ride a bike. As you can see, the RS3 Mini enables you to get a bunch of shots that without a small gimbal, we wouldn't have been able to achieve without a lot more time and resources. For me, this is this gimbal's biggest reason for existing. I was able to hold it one hand on a monopod 15 foot up in the air while riding a bike. For the amount of time this drone fake shot is used in the video, I was able to cut around the bumps and shakes from the uneven ground and get a pretty convincing drone shot. It also works really nice for doing crane shots. I think this makes it great for videographers who need a lighter option of gimbal or aspiring filmmakers who need solutions to tell stories when access to more robust tools aren't an option. At the end of the day, it's people that are responsible for how a production turns out, not the tools, as there are a dozen ways of doing any one shot. Like with any piece of film tech, the more practice you have, the better the outcome will be. DJI has continuously improved on their gimbal tech, and depending on what you shoot and what your needs are, this may be the perfect tool for you. Well, that's all I've got for you today. To see all the products that DJI offers with us here at Vistek, head to vistek.ca. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good one. Bye.